This lesson is another method for solving systems of equations. So you've already learned to solve by graphing, and this lesson is about solving by substitution. So the example I chose for this to begin the lesson is the same example that I used to do the graphing lesson. So you may recognize these two equations. But I want to show you how to solve the same set of equations using the substitution method. Now if you look at these two, they're both in the slope-intercept form of y equals. Since they both equal y, if one thing equals y and another thing equals y, then those two should also be equal. So, since 2x plus 1 equals y and negative x plus 7 equals y, then it should follow that 2x plus 1 would equal negative x plus 7. So I wrote an equation to that. 2x plus 1 would equal negative x plus 7, because again, they're both equal to y. When I solve for x with our basic equation solving, so I'm going to subtract 1 here, get the x's over to the left. With our equation solving, I'm going to get an answer of x equals 2. I've now found one value for the ordered pair for the solution. Now I take this value of x equals 2, and I'm going to bring it up here and put it into one of these two equations. So here, if I put it in here, 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1, y would be 5. And if I put it in this equation as well, if I take that 2 value for x, negative 2 plus 7, y would be 5. So the solution for the system is 2, 5. Here's another example that you could use substitution to solve. It's written slightly differently. In this one, the first equation is y equals 3x, and then the second equation is, in standard form, 2x minus 2y equals 8. Now, because y and 3x are equal, wherever there's a y, I could substitute in 3x. So, there's a y in this equation. I can take this value of 3x and slide it right in there for y. So what I did was I rewrote the second equation, and instead of writing the y, I wrote 3x. This gives you an equation with one variable. We started with equations with two variables. By substituting, I have an x and more x's here. Doing the algebra, equation solving, I get an answer of x equals negative 2. Once you get one value, you always need to substitute that value for x into one of the original equations. So if I take x equals negative 2, bring it back up here, if I put it in this one, 3 times negative 2 equals negative 6. And again, you can find the ordered pair. That's the solution, negative 2, negative 6. This example, again, slightly different, same process with one additional step. This equation has y's and x's. This one has y's and x's. But nothing is solved for y. Nothing is solved for x. And you're going to need to do that. Now, how do you know what to solve for? Well, let's look. This has a coefficient of 2. This has a coefficient of 4. This has a coefficient of 1. And this has a coefficient of negative 3. It is always the easiest method. It's not the only method, but the easiest. And that's the one I'd like to show you, is to solve for the one with the coefficient of 1. So this is the only variable with a coefficient of 1. So I'm going to solve for y. And we've done that previously. So solve for y, bring the 3x over by adding 3x. And here is solving for y. I now have a value for y. Y and negative 2 plus 3x. They're equal. So you have to take your other equation, so this first one, which I rewrote down here, and anywhere there's a y, I want you to put in negative 2 plus 3x, because they're equal. So 2 times, not y, we're going to take that negative 2 plus 3x, I wrote that in green there for you to see, use parentheses, it's a quantity, plus 4x equals 16. Use your distributive property here, add up your like terms, do the algebra, and you'll get x equals 2. So we have now found the first part of that ordered pair solution. So here I wanted to complete that problem. Here's the original equations. We found x equals 2. So to find y, we need to substitute that x value into either of these. Doesn't matter which one. I chose the first equation. So if x equals 2, I'm going to take that first equation, 2y plus 4x equals 16, and where the x is, I'm going to substitute in the 2. So now we have 2y plus 8 equals 16, and again, using our algebra skills, we're going to find y is 4. So the solution then is the ordered pair of 2, 4. Now keep in mind, when you solve a system, that means this solution of 2, 4 will be a solution for this equation as well as this equation. So many times in those examples I've shown you that we're solving for y. But I want to do one to show you can solve for x. It's just a different variable. So again, here's a similar problem where we have a coefficient of 2, a coefficient of 3, a coefficient of 1, and a coefficient of -4. This time we're going to solve for x. So again, using our equation solving skills, we're going to bring the 4y, adding 4y to both sides, and now have, again, solve for x. Now, because these are equal, the substitution method says take the other equation, and anywhere there's an x, here it is, we're going to put in that 1 plus 4y. So again, that's where your substitution occurs. And again, continue through. Keep in mind, you're going to only have one variable. In this case, you're going to be solving for y first. And we got y was 2. Once you get the y is 2, again, bring it back up. Put it into one of these two equations that are the original ones. And again, when you do that algebra, you're going to see if y is 2, x will be 9. So the ordered pair is 9, 2 for the solution. Here's the last example I want to show you. X plus 2y equals 1, 5x minus 4y equals -23. Again, I wanted to show you this because I want you to try to I want to point out to you, and it's very important to know, am I solving for an x, am I solving for a y? Again, look at your coefficients. Choose the one that has a coefficient of 1. So this is the x I want to solve for. So that's always your first step. So in this one, solve for x, and then you're going to take that value for x and put it into the other equation. We already used this first one to get the value. Now, what you get, you have to put into the second one. So here, if it's 5x minus 4y equals -23, take this value for x and put it in right here, 1 minus 2y. Now I started this one for you, and I would like you to try to finish through with the algebra here. So I've got it started. Here's your first step, and I'd like you to work that through, and your final answer should be -3, 2. So work through these steps, get your y value, and then find your x value.